Howdy!
Get it, yeah! Yahoo!
I'd say, welcome to the segment of Q&A.
Q&A from
Angie
Branding
Payne.
Day.
Yeah. Amy Monia and myself, Brett Monia, about processing of our young cattle to get them ready to go to pasture. So before I jump into the Q&A with Angie, I thought I'd have to explain a few things of processing our calves. First off, the age of our calves. They're anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks old. Research shows that to reduce pain, you process them as young as possible. What we're doing here is safely securing the calf into the calf tipping table. What we are given orally here to the calf is meloxicam, which is a product for pain medication. It's for the alleviation of pain and inflammation following processing. I definitely noticed a difference in our calves' health the days following processing them because of using this product. They were back to I'd say normal behavior sooner than years where we did not use it. So my dad is giving the calf its first vaccination needle, and Angie is giving the calf a vaccine intranasally, which helps get the calf off to a healthier, more productive start. So my job for the day was to brand my own cattle. So branding is a permanent method of animal identification, which is easy to identify from a distance and is legally accepted as proof of ownership. When done properly, branding produces a scar where hair doesn't grow back or grows to a different length or color. My brother is giving the calf its CCIA tag in its left ear. Then he's passed the last couple shots of vaccinations, which he administers. This calf is a heifer calf, meaning she's female. So her processing is all done for the day. Her head is released, her body is released, and she can go back with the rest of the calves that have already been done and go back and see her mom. In regards to bull calves, which are males, we've implemented the management tool of castration. Castration avoids unwanted breeding, reduces aggression, improves worker and animal safety, it improves carcass quality, and avoids price discounts. Our method of castration that we implement is banding. The band obstructs blood flow from the testicles and the scrotum. In time, the scrotum and testicles fall from the body. I grew up getting cattle ready to go to pasture. We never called it branding because we never branded cattle. It's always tattooing day. Because in the purebred business, a lot of guys identify their cattle by putting a tattoo in their ear. I know, then of course people refer to it as branding because that's what they're doing throughout the day. They're branding that cattle, putting an identification mark on their hide.
And branding helps them to identify which farm they belong to or who owns that brand, where do they come from. Okay. So it's more identification in like the bigger community. Okay. Whose animal is this? Where does it belong to? How do we get it back?
Because your brand, when I applied for my own brand, it's registered with the brand registry. I forget, livestock identification, I think, something like that. But I had to register my brand. So, for example, last year I had a cow and calf we couldn't get him in for some reason. Oh, she's a little bit wild and she just ran away. We couldn't get her in.
At the pasture. They were at the pasture all summer. It was time to bring them home because the weather was getting colder. The grass wasn't growing. They needed to come home.
So we gathered the animals. She got out. It took off. So we left her because
like out in the wild blue yonder.
Jesus,
like gone
out west by Uzona area, Uzona, Alberta.
Yeah, big pastures, like pastures that are a whole quarter and they're like pretty I don't know, wild and rugged, forested.
Yeah.
Okay.
Swamp. There's some swamp or some wetland there.
But instead of stressing her out, and it was a kind of a miserable day when we did it, left her alone because usually cattle, they'll try to, like, there's cattle nearby, and I knew she'd jump in with another herd. So what, a couple weeks later,
So no, we talked to the brand inspector to let them know at the auction marts there, made some phone calls to neighboring farms to say there is a pair that's out there, a cow and a calf, her identifying information, color, that kind of stuff, and the brand.
So she was found and returned.
yeah, so she jumped in with the neighbor's cows. So when they were gathering, getting ready for winter, of course, they recognized, well, this cow's not ours. Look at the brand on it. They phone the brand inspector, say the Rafter U7 is registered to Brett and Amy Mania. Here's their number. So they phoned us and we got our pair back. Yeah.
Because brandings are also like, they're, I don't know if I would say almost cultural. They're a community event.
Oh,
Bring
yeah.
people together
Well, one of the
to
gals
care
here
for
was
their animals.
yeah.
Animals.
One of the gals that was here was doing a branding for her family the next weekend, and it was a 2-day affair because there was over 300 heads. So, yeah, it's different everywhere.
Opted.
I'd say tags are for like your within your herd identification.
Okay.
So our tagging system helps us to identify our animals within our own herd.
So your tag identifies which calf it is, and then the brand says where it's from.
So
Is that right?
yes, the tag, we have a couple tags in their ear. The initial one we put into them on them when they're born. I know there's a video about tagging we talked about earlier. You can refer to that if you want. During vaccination, we put the little round CCIA tags in them. Canadian Cattlemen's Identification Agency, or any cattle sold has to have. So they can trace that animal when it's harvested. They can link it back to where that animal originally came from.
So when you buy beef at the grocery store, that beef, if something comes out of that beef, they can track it all the way back to where it started from.
Oh, okay. So
It's
they
a
can
way-
track every part of its journey.
It's
Yes.
a way to track like disease and illness and all that kind of stuff to try to keep our food system very safe. So it's a public health tracking system for our food, our beef source. So that identification stays with the calf, the animal, their whole through like the whole food chain cycle.
Introduce yourselves.
I'm Nicole Mania. I'm Ashley Cross.
Hi, ladies. So these ladies are helping out today. So what is your job today?
We're doing the CCIA tags.
CCIA tags. So tell me what they are.
So we'll put one of these in every calf, and we have stickers with the numbers on it, and then same numbers are on here. And then they put them in the calf's ear, and that's their identification.
Okay, and so as soon as it goes in the calf's ear, do you write it down somewhere?
Yeah, these are stickers.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna pop it on our little charts here, and then that's our record.
You did give the calves quite a few vaccinations, and I know that there's huge misconception out in the world that maybe don't understand like what that's all about, and people tend to just be very negative about the vaccines that are given to cattle. So Brett, can you speak to like what it was that they got vaccinated for?
Just
before
list
they-
everything off, Brett.
I might have to go get my sheet of paper. It's been a month ago.
We'll get with the program.
Yeah, I might
You should
have to
know.
here.
You
But
should
how do you
know
make
these
these
things.
decisions? 'Cause
So
you-
how do I
it's a
make the
very conscious
decisions?
decision.
Yeah.
We kind of work with a couple different vets. We work with one out of Pinoca, and I'm not a vet. I don't need to know all the medicines and what they do. That's why I phone a vet and have a relationship with him, and I trust in him to say this is what you should vaccinate for to prevent these certain diseases.
Right.
So I'm like, what do you recommend? What would you do on your own herd? He tells me, I can make the choices. So we did everything he suggested, and to prevent those young animals from getting disease.
Right.
And yeah,
And so he's based on like his education where he went to school for however many years to specialize in animal medicine, and also because he's a vet in that area, we'll see like illnesses that are pretty common there, what you need to vaccinate for in this area, what you don't need to, all that kind of stuff. So, or what they don't see a lot of. So that's, yeah, trusting in people who are spend their time specializing.
So you're essentially vaccinating these babies as we would our children against diseases that could be catastrophic, right?
Yeah, so for because some of those illnesses, if you get it in your herd, it can wipe out a whole bunch of animals really quickly, or cause a lot of harm. So yeah, doing the things we can and we choose to do to try to limit some of that risk. There's a cost to everything. So every vaccination that animal got, every tag that went into the ear, everything that happened that day, there is a cost to. So there's a lot that's weighed into the decisions that producers make and what's the right decision for them.
Right. Yeah, that for me that was really eye-opening. Like I think maybe the first or second year I was here, we had all the mamas come through and you vaccinated them, and that's when the questioning started, I think, right? Because I had also heard these things about unnecessary vaccinations and, oh my God, there's, antibiotics in the cows. And well, the reality is that we take antibiotics too, and it's to keep us healthy if there's something wrong, right? So you guys have to make that decision to keep your herd healthy in order for the food chain to stay healthy as it reaches us, right?
Yeah, exactly. If there's an animal who has an infection, you have a decision to make. Do you treat with antibiotics, or they have a high chance of beating the infection and recovering, or do you just hope that they fight it off themselves, which to watch an animal suffer who could have been treated, that's not something that we feel right doing.
Right. And then you don't really know if they've fought it, really.
Exactly. And there and in where we live, like we have incredible guidelines on when animals can go into the food chain. Like you have certain timelines for medications to get out of the system and stuff like that. You can't ship an animal to the auction mart.
Withdrawal times, they call it,
And they have to know and that kind of stuff, because you don't want medications, excess medications and stuff in your food chain. So you have to trust the scientists and the people who study that and do that every day to make those decisions to try to keep us all safe, the animals, humans.
One of the things I also wanted to talk about was, I'll just back up for a minute. The first time I ever got invited to come and watch the cows go through the chute and get their vaccinations, I actually thought it was going to be a really zen experience, and it was not. Right? The fact is that they get pretty stressed out, and the same with branding day, because you have to separate the mamas from their babies, right? It becomes quite stressful. But what I noticed was the way in which you guys moved through your herd as you were separating them. And because I'm sure that stress hormones build up in their bodies too. Is that true? Like, because you guys really have a way of working with your cattle very quietly and grounded, and there's not a lot of screaming, and it's just it was very nice to watch. And it seemed like the cows and calves, even though they were stressed, they were trying really hard to be as calm as they could. So can you tell me a little bit about like the stress hormones and how that affects them? Like, does it?
Just like cute, and maybe I'm making an assumption, but when we as humans freak out and we can't think, the same thing can happen with cows. Right, so you still want them in that place where they're able to think a little bit and to see a gate open, or to see the spot, right? If you're just chasing them wildly, and sometimes you do need to take charge if something's happening. If cows are running down the road, You're not just gonna be like, come on,
Come on, come on.
shake a bucket, like, we need to get you off the road fast. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah. So trying to like keep it so they can kind of think, because if one of those animals freaks out and decides they're going through you, it doesn't matter. They will seriously hurt you just because they're scared and they're not thinking.
And they're big.
Yep.
They're huge, compared to us.
Well, I loved that process. I hope like I can take part next year in doing that. We'll see. Farmer in Training. Maybe I'm not there yet. But I really saw like the care that you guys have for your animals in that exercise or in that process of, because you have to separate the mamas from the babies in order to get that done, right? That's the first thing that these guys did. So for me as a farmer in training, I really appreciated that. I could really see the care that you guys have for your animals. So where did that come from?
Because I've worked really hard, and Amy is too, like setting up our system to work with the instincts of the animal, right? They like to get away from you. They like to move, in circles. So we kind of fluked out with the way the system was set up. But one thing I've always enjoyed is working cattle. That's my favorite thing to do. Being a rancher / farmer, would you rather work cows or sit on a tractor? Work cows any day. Like, that's my thing. So I've always thought of what's a better way, what's a safer way for myself and the cows to run them through a system. And like I said, we worked really hard, and we put into practices to make that stress level go down for humans and cattle, to make it a more enjoyable experience. Because like I say, growing up around cattle, sometimes it was the most enjoyable experience working cattle, when everybody's lids flipped and nobody can get together. And like I say, I'll start flipping my lid because a lot of the time I'm worried about that cow. Like, it's more their safety, and I don't like seeing them stressed.
Right.
So let's stay calm so they can have somewhat of not an enjoyable experience, but maybe a peaceful experience going through our processing facilities.
Quick and efficient.
Yes.
And it truly was.
Most of your people in animal agriculture don't do it to get rich. Like, you do it because you love the animals or the lifestyle or whatever. And I know that for Brett, like, I love working cows. I love being around cows, and I also think horses are the most amazing animal in the whole world. But I love cows. But Brett's like crazy about cows. Like, he says things to me where I'm like, no. He said something the other day, I'm going to embarrass you. Amy, do you ever look out there and think, man, I just want to go hug my cows?
No.
I don't actually think that way, but this guy actually is crazy about cows, and that's why he's a bullfighter. I mean, of course you love the adrenaline and stuff like that, but the animals are the most beautiful part. You've told me.
As a farmer in training, I think all I could say is how special it is to see farmers like you guys that care so much about your cows, and that the safety of them eventually, is trickles down to the consumers, and the safety for the consumers. I appreciate it. Thank you for the work that you guys do.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And I know where these calves are going in the end. They're to feed humans, ourselves. I love a good steak, but when they're at our place, I treat them, and Amy, with as much dignity as we can, so they have an enjoyable experience for the amount of time they're here.